So I want to take us back a little bit to the focus of the talk tonight, which is about what you discovered about the American view of Jews and of Israel. So share with us a little bit about your findings on this subject.
American Jews, this is the worst. I'm sorry to say it, I'm Jewish. I love Judaism, I love Jewish culture, and my best friends are Jewish. Really. Anyway, so outside of the Orthodox community, outside of that community, where Jews are proud to be Jews and are observing Jewish laws or whatever it is, but put yarmulke or whatever they do, outside of that community, you have the rest of the Jewish community, which is the most of them, of course. Some have been gone, assimilated totally, and then there are the others, the ones what you call American Jews, the majority of them. In state after state, temple after temple, what I saw and what I witnessed was a nightmare. You see rabbis, or so-called rabbis, leaders, supposedly leaders, standing at the podium, and all they can tell to the listeners is that Israel is an apartheid state and that Judaism is racism. That's what they preach you. Over and over and over again. I'll give you one example I'll share with you in St. Paul. One day there was an afternoon in Sunday. The congregation is invited to a talk, a schmooze or whatever, about racism. I thought it's about anti-Semitism. Well, not. It's about blacks and whites. It's about racism against blacks. Very nice, no problem. There are people on the panel, all liberals, or so-called liberals, and like in any normal liberal event, there must be at least one black person. You know that? You have been to those parties? And of course, there was a black lady there. And she happened to be the key speaker. And she goes to the podium and she talks. She says she's Jewish by choice. And she tells the people that since she has become Jewish, she found out really what it means to be Jewish. Israel is an apartheid state. Jews are racist, just as I told you. And the Jews, listening to this, clap. What a beautiful thing she said. When you see it and you watch it, you can't believe it. Even the segments that you heard before. I'll share with you something that's not in the book. When Samantha Power, then U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, stood at the podium talking to 1,000 Jews, all educated, dressed well, looked like they're doing well, and she told them that a message from President Obama, and she said that the United States will always stand by Israel and the United Nations, will always fight anti-Semitism in the UN, and the relationship between America and Israel is unshakable. 3 Jews applaud. Then comes to the stage Ayman Ouda from the Joint List, Arab-Israeli Knesset member. And he says, Israel must observe the Nakba, the catastrophe day, when Jews came to the land and killed innocent Palestinians in the thousands. The murderous Jews. And 1,000 Jews got up in a huge standing ovation and they applauded him for 5 minutes. Say something against the Jews and they will applaud. Next to me in St. Paul was a guest from a Lutheran church. I said to her, what are you doing here? She told me she wanted to find other Jews deal with race issues. I say, what did you find? Said the Jews are racist as well. Racist Jews. She brings the message over. Place by place by place. I'm interviewing in Berkeley University, UC Berkeley, a state university, the best state university in the United States of America. I'm interviewing the chancellor. Next to us sit the press person of the university, a Jew. I talk with the chancellor about all kinds of things. For example, how come the universities, almost half of the students I see are Asian, and you're such a liberal university, how come I hardly see blacks here? And he explained to me that the Asians are 40%, blacks are 3%, the whole thing. And then I told him, okay, everything went well. Then I asked him, I said to him, I spoke with some American with some Jewish students here. And they told me they are afraid to speak about Israel because if their fellow students knew that they support Israel, they would not talk to, they would be boycotted. They would not talk to them anymore. And I wanted the chancellor to give a comment on that. The Jew sitting next to us got very upset, and he started screaming at me. If I knew that you would have been asking this question, I would never, ever have allowed you to be here. That's the Jew. Over and over and over again, when you see some anti-Jewish thing, if you dig deep, deep, and put a lens, a magnifying lens, to see who is behind it, over and over you'll find a Jew.
So
and that's frightening. And this is a last call, I would say, to us Jews. It's time we wake up.
So this, Tuvia, so this is a commentary on the American Jewish community. And I have some questions on it, and I'm sure everyone here also does. But I want to hear more about what you discovered about how regular Americans view Jews, view Israel, and also how those two play off each other. I remember we discussed a very interesting discovery that you came across on this subject.
Okay, we talk about it. I shared it with you, and it's also in the book. This is one of the, put it this way, one of the most interesting discoveries, for me at least. I had a set of questions that I asked everybody, almost everybody, like 5. Like, are you pro-life? Are you pro-choice? Are you pro-gay marriage? Are you for gun control, whatever? And then, you know, this is like issues that Americans deal with it all the time between Democrats and Republicans, or conservatives and liberals. And then there were 2 questions that, in my statistics, there was 95% you could, if you heard the answer to one of them, you would know the answer to the other. And that was in reality, one of the people that I asked. All across this land, in the 28 states, the costs are in Montana or in Kansas. Doesn't matter. Question: do you believe in climate change? Man-made climate change? Yes or no? Are you pro-Israel or are you pro-Palestine? Now, the people who believed in climate change were pro-Palestine. The people who did not believe in climate change were pro-Israel. Yes, I understand why these are the set of values, but it's so interesting when you see it. And when I asked the people a follow-up question, where is Palestine? Almost none of them know. All they know is there are some Jews fighting them. That's it. And then one of the other interesting things were, like, I went to the churches, evangelical churches, where I thought, you know, they love Jews and all that stuff. And you see the older generation still supports Israel. The younger generation is already talking about free Palestine. And that's no matter where, even the reddest of states. You know? The young people, at the majority, free Palestine. And that was very, very interesting to discover. That respect for Jews still exists in America in the older generation. In the young generation, it exists less and less. In other words, the European anti-Semitism is coming to this country. We are not yet there. We are not yet, America is not yet like Germany, or like France, or like Belgium, or like Poland. But we are advancing there very fast, and you better watch it. I live in those countries, I know, and I can tell you that what I saw in America now was shocking to me, was frightening, but I think we can still stop it if we are paying attention to it. But you see, in the West, there is influences from America to Europe and from Europe to America. And then from Europe comes through colleges, through different kind of media, comes the anti-Semitism, the classic European anti-Semitism, which is hidden behind State of Israel. But that's what it is. And this is the reality. And if you don't wake up to it, it will happen to us what happens in Europe. I mean, it's like in Europe, it's frightening today. I live in Germany. But my dear wife, my beautiful wife, Izzy, said to me when we started the journey, she said, Tuvia, why do you tell everybody you are German? We are not with the Palestinians here. You can say you are Jewish and you are born in Israel. I said, okay, for you, I'll do it. We were in Georgetown, Washington, D.C. A man walks with his dog, well-dressed, nice, walks very nice. We start talking to each other, and I learned that he's really nice guy, a lawyer, well-to-do. And then he recognizes my accent is not an American, and he asked me where I am from. And for my dear wife, I said, Israel. And then he comes closer to me with his mouth into my ears. And he said, after 2,000 years, you had to colonize. After 2,000 years, you had to colonize. Colonialist Israelis, you know, colonialist Jews, we colonialized the Palestinians. So I said to him, you sound like a nice guy. You know, I'm a journalist, I would like to give you an interview. Is it okay if I record you? So I record him, and he tells me how great it is that he knows that I'm from Israel, it's so nice, ba-ba-boo, ba-ba-boo. I say, no, tell me what you said before I started recording you. What did I say? Colonize. I said, no, I didn't say colonize. I said coalesce. I said, excusez-moi, you said colonize. And she was there. Didn't he say colonize? He said colonize. So we started like arguing what he really said, what he did said. And then I said, you know what? I'm wasting my time. I closed the recording, my iPhone, put it back in the pocket. I put it in the pocket. Comes back to me, into my ears. What the Nazis did to you, you do to others. Thank you very much. So sometimes I try to be this Israeli thing or the Jewish thing. Didn't work. It's too loaded in this country. Too loaded, like in Europe.
Did you find in your travels that the rising anti-Semitism, especially the BDS movement, is being instigated by Muslims or Arabs?
Okay, this was a very good question, and I'll tell you something that you probably, most of you will not agree with me. I have seen a lot of anti-Semitism in my life. I live and I go and I travel in European countries and in Muslim countries. Anti-Semitism in Muslim countries and anti-Semitism in European countries or Christian countries or atheist countries are very, very different. The anti-Semitism of the white man is much stronger than the anti-Semitism of the brown man, Muslim in this case. If you go to Jordan or Saudi Arabia or Doha, Qatar, You see a lot of anti-Semitic literature in the bookstores or in newsstands, like in Amman. Guess who wrote those books? Muslims? No. Europeans. When I traveled in Israel, and I saw what happens over there, when Europe sends its best children to the Middle East to convince the Palestinians that the Jews are not to be trusted. And many times, when they ask the Muslim, who told you this stupid story? Said the Europeans. I'll never forget the Muslim guy, Aziz, from a Bedouin. And in one of those Bedouin settlements or whatever that doesn't exist anymore, or he wants to exist it, and he claimed that the Jews came, the Israelis, obviously the Jews came and took it away, and he starts singing to me in English. The Jews came and destroyed the trees. And I said to him, Ya Aziz, we are in the desert, Ya Aziz. There were never trees here, Ya Aziz. Why are you telling me about trees that the Jews took? Are you nuts? So he didn't compose it. The Europeans came and told him to sing the song. They told him about the history of the place. If you read it in Catch the Jew, the Europeans are spending millions upon millions upon millions of euros in making or refining or recreating places to prove that before the Jews came, the Palestinians were the first. It's amazing as they do it. Who does it? Europeans, people who look like you and like me. Their hatred to the Jew will never equal the hatred of the European. In my next book, in which we traveled around refugee camps, it's a book about the refugees. The Arab, Muslim, Afghanis, all those refugees are in Germany now. Almost 2 million of them. And it was driving one day refugee camp, one day with the Germans. One day with the Syrians, one day with the Germans. Guess where I found the most anti-Semitic comments? People said to me, not even with the Syrians, with the Germans. The Syrians, the immortal enemy of Israel. They don't really care. Hey, the Jews this, the Jews that. Okay, big deal. Let's move on. But the German, no, we must solve the problem. We have a Jewish problem. So it's very nice legend, and it's very nice myth that it's the Muslims who bring anti-Semitism to the land, to the European continent. But I am sorry to disappoint you. I'm not saying they are righteous. I'm not saying they are not anti-Semitic or whatever, Jew haters, whatever you want to call it. But their hatred, compared to the European hatred, that's the difference between day and night, my man. Sorry. Even in Palestinians, meet a Christian Palestinian and meet a Muslim Palestinian. Who hates the Jews more, with more passion? The Christian. You know how many times I heard from Christian Palestinians that the Jews are not human beings but demons who fly? Horrible things I hear from them. Much more than from the Muslim. Sorry.